So, another week, another controversy that strikes the Western VTubing community. You'll love to see it. Today, we'll be talking about the relatively well-known VTuber rigger known as kvxart, or Kevin. You might be familiar with his works if you watched a variety of Western VTubers, including some Vshojo members such as Iron Mouse, Zentreya, or Henya, to name a few. How does Kevin relate to these VTubers, you may ask? Well, he is a VTuber rigger, also known as the person who makes the model art come alive. So what was once a simple 2D looking PNG can now look, well, alive, possibly even 3D. Riggers are a very important part to any VTuber with a live 2D model, and Kevin has been rigging and gaining known for his works for a few years now. His style is generally known to be bouncy and lots of physics for certain areas, and all his showcases are often high energy and eye-catching. So what, pray tell, could possibly land this man into controversy? Well, there's actually a few things about this guy throughout these past few years, but the one that particularly set him off on this fine day of July 26, 2024 was when he made this tweet saying, "Do you like Chubby-Fit Mitsuri?" which is a character from Demon Slayer. Now, I have to crop out anything below the hips cause let's just say that bikini ain't hiding the contours of the lower body goods. But from this you can sort of tell that she does have a teeny bit of a tummy and she do got some thicker thighs, but calling it chubby, even chubby fit, is low-key kinda a stretch, in my and many others' opinions. So when people called him out saying this isn't chubby, let's just say he went full nuclear and blocked a ton of people. Even me, even though I woke up late in the day because my sleep schedule is effed and didn't even see his tweet in the first place, only people talking about it. And I never once spoke on this particular issue at the time. So like, okay? But I'm pretty sure I know why he blocked me, and it wasn't because of this chubby fit issue. Nah, he blocked me because I sided with the other VTuber riggers who made criticisms about his rigs being essentially built on a bunch of templates and are essentially your character here rigs. But we'll talk more about all of that later this video. Hi everyone, my name is Saphera Noma, but you can call me Saf. Just a friendly reminder not to bother anyone mentioned in this video. Also, I will be showcasing a few of Kevin's rigs and works which include a variety of models. Please do not bother the VTubers in question if you happen to know who they are. I will remind y'all when we get there, but this is purely for informational purposes. Thank you. So, first, the chubby fit controversy. There were many people who spoke out on this, especially people who are of chubby or plus size. Many of these people disagreed with Kevin's labeling of this Mitsuri model, some saying that it made them feel self-conscious or have body issues. Others saying along the lines of, "This is still considered skinny," and others going so far as to say, "Stop using adult material for your references," which is, in my opinion, all valid. After all, I am also a woman, I see women around, I've seen chubby women too, and all this to say this teeny bit of tummy ain't chubby. Also, like this one commenter says, if you want chubby, put some meat on the arms, don't half-ass it. And you know what? That is extremely true. If you're gonna put extra fat on somebody, you gotta make sure that fat goes in the right places. And let me just tell you, it all don't go in the thighs. Let me just tell you that for real. In response to the growing criticism, he simply had this to say to double down, where his caption is, "Guys, fine, I will try to eat more, salute emoji." And then he draws Mitsuri saying, "I gained some body fat and feeling a little chubby. Wait, you really don't mind?" as she gets presented 3 burgers with hearts in her eyes. Personally, I find this really immature and laughable, cause like, bro, you really thought you cooked with this one, huh, Kevin? It's deleted now, but let this be a reminder of what his immature response was as soon as criticism started. Continuing on, he does have another more thought out rebuttal where he also shows the model next to his Marin model. "Different body standards exist. You are quickly projecting and enforcing your own onto others. I struggle to gain weight and my art style leans towards skinny. I think chubby is super adorable and my ideal is obviously different from yours. We all have body problems in real life. I don't know you, I don't represent you, nor am I an authority or your therapist. Deal with it. Also, I blocked you because you use slurs, attack, harass, gossip, and accuse me of your profile is filled with vile words and you clearly don't enjoy my sense of humor. Here's your explanation, go check the boxes yourself. To my soldiers, stay tuned for more epic content. You ain't seen nothing yet what I am about to do with this character. Salute emoji." And holy yikes, defensive much? Just because you personally struggle to gain weight doesn't mean you can mislabel what the hell chubby is. It's great that you think it's cute, at least you're not necessarily fat phobic, but also saying the words my ideal really tells a lot about what Kevin is doing here. He is fetishizing and sexualizing the chubby aspect in the areas that he personally finds attractive, which seems to be the chest, stomach, and thighs, and not even doing it accurately because, again, there's not enough fat on that stomach, dude. Not to mention, again, look how terribly bare-boned those poor arms are. If he wants people to respect his opinions, maybe don't be so egotistical and defensive and try to change the definition and accept his normal standard of what is considered chubby. It's not about body problems in real life, it's literally just telling you what is and isn't chubby. He also says, I blocked you because you use slurs, attack, harass, gossip, accuse me of everything. And like, what? I and many others this guy has blocked has done absolutely zero of these things. A lot of people just want you to understand what chubby is, even chubby fit. Chubby fit doesn't mean skinny AF arms and not enough tummy. It's really that simple. He did seem to have learned a little, maybe, as he later quote retweeted this tweet of an artist drawing of what is chubby, and he says, "This art convinced me, I officially surrender, love it." In the art, it has Mitsuri in definitive chubby standards with emphasis on a chunkier arm, some light roundness around her stomach and hip area, as well as a little tummy roll, and rounded out thighs. This is good art, and is definitely more accurate to the definition of chubby. I just hope Kevin learns from this and takes it to heart, or just not label his Mitsuri model as anywhere chubby related. Anyway, moving on from this controversy, there's a few other L's that Kevin has taken over the years that many have brought back up again because, well, whenever someone with historical problematic behavior once again gets called out for being problematic again, people usually like to bring it up to be like, see guys, he never learned. We called him out on this XYZ ago. But hey, that seems to be the Twitter cycle from what I've observed. So, what did Kevin get into besides this chubby fit issue? Well, you might have noticed if you're familiar with the character, but he made a model of Marin Kitagawa, and this character is canonically 15 years old. A lot of people have an issue with this because, well, he uses this model quite often to showcase certain physics, even adult features, and he likes to use her a lot for his quote, sus assets. Oh yeah, did I ever tell you this guy makes VTuber assets? Well, that's the thing. He has a lot of non-sus assets, some that are game related, some that are popular media related, and some that are just silly or a neat idea. But he also has assets that I cannot risk showing on YouTube because they're very, very sus. Like, adult sus. And he often uses his Marin model with these sus assets. So, like, a lot of people just have an issue with this because he's using a model based almost one-to-one on a canonically underage character, and to these people, it seems like PDF-like behavior, because why are you sexualizing a minor? But then you have the other party that goes, oh, but they're fiction and fiction doesn't mean reality, so therefore it's not PDF filing. And like, yeah, go have your debate. I still think it's really weird, my dude, in the first place. I'm not calling anyone a PDF file, by the way, but I'm just saying it's really freaking weird. Anyway, if he just made and had a Mitsuri model instead, like literally no issue would ever have happened because TBH, at least she's an adult. Anyway, that's that entire issue. Another issue he got into was an asset he made on the cover of the song Lollygod Requiem, which, well, I don't really want to talk about what the song was about, but this particular device he made as an asset is essentially like a panic or alarm whistle if you pull on it, and it makes a loud sound and won't turn off for a while. Considering this was seen on a child character, it has some unfortunate implications. So some people took issue with this asset existing as well, also given that he makes sus assets regularly. Those morally questionable controversies aside, there is one particular controversy that a lot of fellow VTuber riggers took issue with, that I'll dedicate a good chunk of this video to. It all started, at least from my perspective, around May of 2024 when a fairly well-known and high-quality rigger by the name of Suika had this thread. I've been wondering why so many VTubers go for quantity over quality rigs. I think it's mainly because of the speed plus low cost and the lack of proper labeling. Here's my thoughts on this. The reason why these rigs are so cheap and fast is because the preset file is being used, meaning all new PSDs are imported into the same live 2D mold and then just need to be adjusted, etc. Technically speaking, the rig should be labeled as a your character here rig. Most riggers rig models from scratch to ensure the model's uniqueness, but this also takes a lot longer to do than using a preset file, hence why the price is also higher. When asked, most people vote for quality over speed, but most bigger VTubers like to get their rigs done fast. I've only worked with a handful of big VTubers, but each time they needed the rig to be done as fast as possible, so naturally they gravitate towards your character here rigs, which effectively makes smaller VTubers gravitate towards these riggers too, since the big client names are attached. The speed and low cost help too, of course. The reason I think these rigs should be advertised as your character here rigs is because not only should clients know what they're paying for, but also because the fast and cheap rigs mess up the price market for others who rig each model from scratch. A lot of clients see these your character here rigs and their turnaround time plus low cost and think this should be the standard, and other riggers are overcharging and taking too long to rig. I hope this thread makes sense. I'm not the best at putting my thoughts into words, and this is only my personal observation. I also want to say that your character here rigs aren't bad, but you can see that a lot of corners were cut compared to rigs made from scratch. These riggers are highly skilled in what they're doing. It's just sad to see them sacrifice the quality for a fast turnaround time. That being said, in order to work with VTubers who want a super fast turnaround time, I would also have to make a preset in the future. But would clients want to pay for a your character here model if they knew about it? I think that's why no one specifies it. And to me, this was a surprise. If you've watched enough of Kevin's rigs in the past, which in my 2 years of VTubing, I've seen a lot of his work show up on my feed, and also because some of the VTubers who get his rigs are well known in the community, there's also a lot of homogeny in his works. Now, one can chalk that up to a style, but there are always some repeatable things that I noticed, that being his walk cycle animations and jittery steppies. I personally always found these weirdly similar, and seeing Suika's thread made me realize, oh, these are just preset templates that he layered onto each person's model with these features, and maybe he adjusted a few parameters to fit the art and then called it a day. And honestly, the only issue is, he had never ever disclosed this in his commissions at this time. Now, let's be clear here. There's nothing inherently wrong with using templates. If anything, it can be argued it's a technology akin to being able to free transform your digital art, like scaling, changing angles, moving it around, etc. Templates should be used as a tool to help you work smarter, not harder. However, the main issue with using templates to the degree that Kevin does is simply 1. It is not labeled or disclosed as such, and he is charging a premium rate that insinuates it's completely unique. 2. If used too often to the point of homogeny, it might actually lead to being like a crutch, and also can lead to errors due to the lack of oversight and quality care. We'll go over this more in just a second. So when another artist decided to quote retweet this and have their own thoughts on it, I responded with, "Oh, I know exactly the person since this isn't the first I've heard things, lol. I always knew there was something formulaic about their rigs, especially since they pumped that stuff out so fast. It's eye-catching, but I def want handcrafted love, not a your character here just for convenience. Because it's true, I got nothing to hide behind my opinion. Kevin was releasing this stuff quite often, compared to other riggers I follow and look at who release a completed model less frequently than he does. And as someone who is a VTuber who cannot draw or rig, this means I have to commission someone else to do these tasks for me. And if I find out that what I've requested is not necessarily custom tailored to my specific model, but rather a your character here when I wasn't asking for your character here, then we gonna have issues. Since why am I paying for over 2,000 doubloons only to get something that is essentially not 100% unique to me? It'd be one thing if I was shelling out like a few $100s for a quick and easy rig, but over 2,000? Specifically, 2,600 and not including add-ons and priority fees? Bro, I ain't paying thousands to get essentially a tweaked replica of someone else's rig. But speaking of his rigs, let's readdress a point I made earlier, that there are errors in his rig due to the lack of quality care. I'm not pulling this out of my ass. I heard it from other riggers who had the skilled expertise and insight to realize certain flaws in his rig, such as clipping. However, I have not talked to any rigger about this personally and decided to see if I can see such clipping errors myself with my slightly above amateur eyes. Because, again, I got no idea about rigging, but I do know what clipping is and I use a VTuber model often. So, without further ado, let's go over everything I've seen in just a small handful out of the dozens of showcases he himself has posted. I didn't go through everything, of course, that'd be a little wacky, but I just went scrolling and watched some of these, and these issues stood out to me. A reminder again to not bother any of the VTubers in question, as it is possible these issues are a non-issue for them, or something they've corrected post-showcase. However, these are just things that I noticed that would, to me, would be like the equivalent of buying a brand new car only to find out there's a decent scratch on the bottom of the car on the paint. It's still technically usable, and honestly the average person isn't gonna notice it, but if I paid a lot of money, I'm gonna want it to be as close as perfect as possible. So let's start off with this. There is a clipping issue with the strap to the dog bone accessory. It's extremely noticeable when the movements are pushed to the extreme, and this strap should not be detached like this. This is a personal preference, but the animation of the grain of sand in this rotating hourglass take a bit long to get going in my opinion. Like just a second or two long, but otherwise this animation is pretty cool and a neat feature, not gonna lie. This person's chest area and the sides of their torso look a little detached when moving from side to side. I suppose it's more like the cloth than anything since it doesn't match up with the movements, but it still looks strange when pushed to the extreme. For this model, there's clipping areas on the character's right ear. You can see when she turns her head towards the left, there's this part right here that's detached. This should be an easy fix, but still says a lot when it's missed. This character has a lingering shadow between their eyebrow and eye. I think it's supposed to be an eyebrow shadow. It's definitely not a marking as I checked the original design and it doesn't have this, so I think this is just something that is an oversight. It also goes away when going into Kevin's stylized chibi version, so I feel like this isn't supposed to be there. For this person, the issue only happens when the animal ears come out. The ribbons look so stiff and clip into the front of the ears and looks a little distracting. It otherwise seems fine on its own, but this should be something that was noticed and acted upon, in my opinion. In this model, there seems to be a stray strand of hair that sticks out when this person turns to their left. It's really barely noticeable, but it's there, and I'm not quite sure if that's supposed to be that way. In this person's chibi model, the fur on his coat sort of clips unnaturally with his model. It's a bit distracting, not gonna lie. Personally, the straps moving so much on this person's thighs from what I think would be a small movement would just give me chafing nightmares. But that just might be me being really nitpicky, honestly. In this person's model, his pants have a clipping area that reveal what's below during the walking cycle. It looks really strange to have a hole in your pants while you're walking, and this should have been caught by Kevin for real. For this person's model, the coat clips into their torso on one side but not the other during the walk cycle. Very weird and unnatural. There's also things that I personally dislike with certain templates he uses, such as these steppies, where they look so unnaturally jittery with their leg movements. I do understand people want their model to take a step to look like they're moving, but why do their legs gotta go up and down like they gotta pee real bad just to get the steps going? And walking. Man, don't even get me started on the walking. The walks are so formulaic that pretty much everybody who walks with his model looks exactly the same. And yeah, you can argue when you're making a sexy walk down the catwalk that okay, sure, you kind of look the same, and maybe of all the templates, this one would be the most beneficial since it's so much work for the animation. But God, does it all look the same and not very unique once enough people get it. Plus, honestly, I don't really know how many people use these walking toggles when actually streaming. This isn't to say that, oh, his rigs are terrible, South's just nitpicking and being super elitist. No, his rigs are, in my opinion, completely acceptable. To the average viewer, no one's really gonna notice this, let's be real. How often are you scrutinizing everything your favorite VTuber does or how they move? As long as they move around enough and have a decent personality, it's passable. And personally, I actually do like how bouncy they are and the movements are really fluid from afar. However, what the point I am trying to make is that these overusages of templates and how fast Kevin pumps these out is causing issues like these to slip under the cracks. When someone's paying over $2,000, they probably aren't expecting these issues to arise from someone who has years of experience in the industry, especially since according to some riggers, these are very easy to fix and shows a quality assurance issue. But there may be other issues other than simply quality assurance on the rig itself. You see, in Kevin's terms of service, he states this: in most cases, KVXart will edit, repaint, and further layer the source artwork to be made applicable to rigging standard. This may create minor visual differences compared to the original art due to rigging technical limitations. He admits to possibly editing and repainting over another artist's work to be applicable to rigging standard. Although there is no rigging standard since everyone's rigs are different. But generally, this is pretty weird because almost every reputable artist I know is more than willing to work with any rigger to make the changes needed for rigging. If art needs to be adjusted in some way or shape, they will usually accommodate free of charge. Kevin saying he'll repaint over other artists' styles may actually be a problem, especially without the artist's consent, because in some ways, he's kind of editing their art. An example of this is about one of Iron Mouse's model made by Nanoless. Here is the rig where the pearls detach during body movement, and these are stylistically not supposed to do that. Nanoless sees this and says, "I effing hate this. Because this should be the original chest and he modified it without my knowledge. I clearly state that I offer free fixing for the rigger until model is done and good. And in a better comparison picture, we can see that not only have the pearls been adjusted, but also the shadows on her chest, and even the shadows for her hair around the shoulder area are pretty absent. Also, for some reason, I feel like she gained an extra cup size in Kevin's work. This could indicate a large problem in relying on templates so much if Kevin had to not only enlarge the chest, but in the process remove the tasteful shadows to fit his work style rather than working with what he was given. Speaking of his work, he did at Nanolist in a January tweet with the following: "What you made me do, teary-eyed emoji face." Nanolist did not respond to this tweet at this time though, but on Nanolist's tweet on July 30th, he did respond with this to say: "I love your work. I was not in direct communication with you and I fixed the pearl immediately after I noticed. Detaching because body X reverse is enabled and I forget to test it. I give you the reason about the shading and video explanation and I was willing to update it and you said so too. I've been waiting for you reply." Nanolist responds: "This is something you brought up because I questioned it. I was willing to fix it, but I personally just gave up. You're correct, but thank you for your service. This will never happen again." Kevin says, "We collabed many times before and we are both satisfied on the results. I don't want this one-time reason made you grow hostile on me. I worked hard on this model and I still love your work. At least we could be neutral." And then he says on his own Twitter, "To clarify, you asked me and I offered you video explanations on art fixes and you agreed to update the art. However, I haven't received any response. I genuinely appreciate your art. There is no need for hostility." And then Nanolist responds, "This happened after her debut. Thumbs up." And then Kevin responds with a handshake emoji. So, not sure what a handshake means, but I suppose that is that. Nanolist doesn't seem too keen to want to have her art worked on by Kevin anymore, so that is that. Continuing on, in light of Kevin's recent controversies, more about Kevin was said. "I just want to say there's nothing bad about using templates for rigging, but if it's a template to the point it's basically a your character here rig, you have to disclose it. If you don't, it's morally incorrect and misleading to unaware clients. If you give out CMO3 files, it is also your duty. To quickly clarify, CMO3 files are the source rigging file for live 2D models, I think. This is basically the equivalence of an artist giving out their PSD files that has all the layers, but for a rigger. It shows the rigger's work. Some riggers refuse to give this to clients because they don't want to have their work essentially altered or stolen, and will instead just give the file needed to be able to run on their respective program like VTube Studio. But a lot of riggers I worked with has given me the CMO3 file, but for the most part, I don't touch it. If you give out CMO3 files, it is also your duty to remove any other PSDs from previous clients, as it is easy to export the PSD file from that CMO3 file. Anyone could just yoink someone else's model. Clients aren't aware of this fact, which makes it worse. With templates that are okay, I mean physic, parameter, presets, things of this sort. If it is the entire body movements, that's what makes it a your character here rig and should be disclosed to the client prior to buying. Otherwise, clients think they're getting an 100% custom model. And someone had asked, I've seen people say it's pretty easy to prevent this, and then Suika responds, you can just delete those source files pretty easy. And then they asked, why doesn't he just do that then? And then Suika just responds, yep. And then Suika also gave this recording that says, here's a recording of KevinX's art's Marin model file that has past clients' PSDs still in it. For anyone to export, I tried exporting one of the PSDs, it gives me the whole entire model PSD. You can buy that file off of his Patreon, so literally anyone can access these PSDs inside. He also gives out CMO3s to clients who commissioned him, with past clients' PSDs still inside as well. You can imagine why this is harmful and needs to be addressed. There was no transparency to the clients about the template being used or their PSDs being leaked. And this ability to extract other PSDs from a CMO3 file is a different issue that is, in my opinion, definitely a huge big issue. For a VTuber, their model PSD is extremely important to them. A model can't be made without that PSD, and at that same time, that PSD can be modified and changed and eventually turned into a moving model. If there are malicious entities, people who have access to these undeleted PSDs in the CMO3 file can just extract it and begin editing and rigging the new art to essentially just copycat a VTuber. It's extremely distressing if you lose your PSD to a malicious person who can essentially just try and ruin your branding by pretending to be you and harming your reputation. So the fact that Kevin was negligent in this and released PSDs in his Marin model from 2022 on his Patreon, that just opened risk to a few of his unfortunate early clients who most likely had no idea their identity can be stolen just like that. And considering this was not addressed until recently, who knows how many people have downloaded that Marin model and have access to these files. And in addition, there is claims that he releases CMO3s to clients who commission him with past clients still inside. I'm sure there's no malicious VTuber who misuses these, but that's extremely distressing to know that because of this guy's negligence, their PSDs may not be as safe as they thought it was. It's also ironic considering Kevin's terms of agreement says this: privacy, confidentiality. Kvxart ensures any information including identity details, contact information, private messages, data, work-in-progress imagery, files, and all deliverables remain confidential and are exclusive to the client unless authorized by the client or required by law. It sure ain't confidential and exclusive to the client if other clients can just, snatch it, huh? Now, Kevin did address these claims with, "I do sincerely apologize for the accidental leakage of PSD files during the transfer of source files. I was informed of this issue long time ago and have since quickly removed the affected files and ceased this practice. I was not technically aware of the implications during my early days experiments with Live2D. I apologize to the clients affected. Going forward, I have disciplined myself and am now fully aware of the significance of privacy and copyright. I want to apologize to these VTubers and anyone else who may have been affected. I fully acknowledge my mistake and promise to never repeat it. I will be unblocking most people who have criticized me lightly or harshly. I recognize that I have had issues with handling criticism, but I now understand that many of you come from a place of concern. I don't mean to be aggressive, and I hope we can still be friends." I just find it interesting that he says I was informed of this issue a long time ago, but he apparently didn't remove it until recently, but tries to disguise it as if he had removed it ages ago when it was brought up. It's a bit misleading, but at least he does try to resolve to do better, though only time will tell. And regarding his blocking, by the way, this guy has blocked a bunch of other riggers in the community or artists in the community, so yeah. He didn't really take the criticism well from his peers, which says a lot in my opinion, but apparently we're all unblocked now, so yippee! Regarding the usage of templates, he had this to say: "Yes, I am bragging. I developed the most advanced template tool way ahead. This is just a small glimpse. It saves me at least 10 hours of work. Learn a tip and build your own templates and rigging styles. Riggers, pay our taxes and save for retirement before AI replaces us all. Still takes about 70 plus hours for the rest of the model rigging, especially the hair and outfits. I am still improving tools and efficiency. Soon I aim to service more VTubers. I have 6 years of experience and worked full time with Netflix, Disney, and Epic Games as concept artist and UE5 3D artist before, and while learning Live2D, little kids playing with their drama try to cancel me. Get on my level. I don't make tutorials. Also, this is one of 20 folders of template preset, physics, presets, expressions, special effects, layer masks, boobs, animations. Ain't gonna show you all, you know them. So let's go through everything really quick. So he admits he has a lot of templates and only now advertises one on his commission page, which I'm pretty sure he added this after the post on July 30th, but I can't exactly confirm. But also, hold up. He says, I have 6 years of experience and worked full-time with Netflix and all that fun stuff. You mean you're full-time with Netflix where your team was unfortunately laid off due to a writer's strike after 3 years that you admitted on your page? And not to mention his whole I have all this experience, get on my level, kid. Just reminds me of that one copy pasta that's like, I'll have you know I graduated top of my class. You know the one. And not again to mention that, bro, as far as I'm concerned, no one's trying to cancel you. They're just trying to give you fair and due criticism to essentially do better as a person. Not everyone is out to sick your livelihood or whatever, Jesus. If anything, in my opinion, this defensive bratty attitude is a huge turnoff to anyone who is normal. Speaking of sane, bro is out here complaining about competing with AI. Everyone fight against AI, but no one wants to talk about AI seriously. Live2D probably has less 4 years of vitality before every AI-generated anime image becomes self-animating and has real-time face tracking. The next generation who grow up with AI will not care. I don't support AI, but if you're reading this, you are in danger. Skeleton rigging technique goes hard, still not near perfect and needs work. I am both an artist and technician. VTuber model quality standards have gone way up since early 2020. I will continue raising my commission prices each year and developing new tech to compete with AI. And yeah, while AI technology does exist for Live2D cubism, as you can see here with this 5.1 update, there is assisted help AI that can make deformers and sway motion. But again, this isn't anything scary or problematic like generative AI that's gonna steal my job. No, it's just assisted help like a tool to help you get started, similar to a template, and then you adjust as you go. But I don't know how efficient the AI is compared to a skilled rigger, but that is up for the riggers to decide. At the very least, this seems like it can be quite helpful for new people who want to learn how to rig, but probably shouldn't be the definitive, oh, if I just click this button, boom, done, I don't have to do anything technique. I don't think there's gonna be generative AI technology that's gonna make usable VTuber models for a very, very long time, if ever. That stuff seems way too complicated, especially if you want something that actually looks good. I mean, just think about it. Every artist has a different way of drawing an anime character, or even just non-anime characters in general, such as furries or even just mascots. Like, I don't think there's going to be any way that we're going to have AI that can do all this competitively. But don't quote me on that if AI overlords take over in a few years' time, okay? Anyway, there are other things Kevin has said in response to the criticism he got that was along the lines of, he admits he baits, he says he's too edgy sometimes, and acknowledges they don't always land, but don't worry, he'll learn from it, he says. And sure, he did apologize to the one person who was being heartfelt about their body image issues because he thought they were being satirical, and has since unblocked people who may have lightly criticized his work itself, including myself. So yippee, I'm unblocked, but I still ain't following you, bro, not after this shit show. And for his final apology to sum up for this week, he said, I know I've been more active than usual over the past few days. I hope I have addressed all topics of 1. Rigging template, 2. PSD leak, 3. Body standard, 4. The whistle, 5. Underage character. Some of my posts or comment may have come across as aggressive, but I have calmed down and formulated my thoughts, and I hope you can get to accept my personality. Cheers. While we have gone over the rigging template, the PSD leak, the body standard, regarding the whistle and underage character, all he did was tweet out these. Guys, what song is this and what is she holding? Should I make a VTuber asset? And guys, which anime is she from? I have a master's degree in physics. I need to watch and do fan art. And TBH, these aren't like good reasons, but sure, whatever floats your boat, man. In the end, around the end of July 31st, 2024, Kevin deleted a few of his prior more immature tweets, though not all in my opinion, and had this to say. I have read all your comments and I will. 1. Transparently disclose my use of rigging templates. 2. I will not making modifications without the artist's consent and respectfully consider feedback on the final product. 3. I will not reusing your files for template development and ensure your file security. 4. Take the time and care needed to meet clients' expectations. 5. Correct my aggressive behavior on the internet and maintain a professional manner. Personally, given how unapologetic he seemed earlier and deflected criticism and painted his criticizers as the actual terrible people in the situation, this sudden 180 seems abnormally quick to turn around a new leaf. If I wanted to be pessimistic, then such an answer would be that since he hardly took a dent to his follower count, the more likely answer is that he may be trying to save face and try to preserve any remaining bridges from artists who may not have already gone on record to say they will not accept Kevin as their rigger for their model art for future clients going forward. This could, theoretically, be to try preserve as many working relationships before they all go up in flames. Of course, only time will tell if what Kevin says is true. For now, it's a step in the right direction, but whether the action follows through with his words is another thing entirely. To sum up this entire cluster F, what can we learn from this? Well, first off, I'm not here to cancel Kevin. I do not think his livelihood should be threatened. Nor do I think he should quit rigging entirely or that all his assets are just awful because he has some morally questionable taste that I personally don't agree with. I think Kevin's rigs are still, of sorts, beneficial to the VTubing community on the condition he is significantly more transparent about what he does, which is use a bunch of templates. I say this because, let's face it, he has a high turnaround rate which is beneficial to those who need their model done in a short amount of time. And currently, high quality riggers are pretty booked for a very, very long time. Like, I swear, I've seen some riggers open up comms maybe once a year at best. And I'm not complaining that that's a bad thing, but it's just that it's hard to find a rigger who's available sometimes because of the lack of availability due to high demand. Meanwhile, Kevin gets these done at an arguably passable quality. They're bouncy, eye-catching, and Kevin is by no means an amateur despite making some minor errors here and there. He can do cool animations, his rigs look fluid, and even though I have gripes with certain aspects, it's still good passable rigs, enough for the average audience to not care for the most part. For those in corpo, such as Vshojo, I can see why Kevin is a pick since he can crank them out in a reasonable time frame for them. In addition, I think the fact that he regularly makes assets is neat. While I side-eye his sus ones, there's good safe for work ones that he makes that are interesting. Despite all his flaws, including his huge ego and defensive nature and quote humor that I do not vibe with, nor morals that I agree with, I can still respect the work that he has done. After all, he does things that benefits, say, the lewd-tubers, who may already struggle with things because of their lewd-tubing status. Kevin helps open up more opportunities for them, and that shouldn't be looked down on. Also, he does certain physics for these lewd-tubers that may accentuate their features they use for their work. So I may not personally vibe with Kevin, but at most, this is just criticism on his actions and behavior in the past week. He has resolved to do better and to remain professional. So all we can do is wait and see. And if you're a VTuber looking for a rigger, then I personally just highly recommend that you do your research into the people you want to commission. Look at their styles, all their showcases, their work in progresses, their professionalism and attitude, and how they act on social media. If things align, then perfect. If you're only commissioning them because, say, a famous person commissioned them and for that alone, then consider this as an argument against that. The amount of clout you're going to get from getting a commission from a quote famous rigger is at best minuscule. Most of the work to get attention comes from yourself. 2. Can a famous rigger help? Yeah, sure. But not many are going to stick around if your personality is that of paper or you don't make enough content showcasing your model, which is why they came over in the first place. Anyway, that's about all I gotta say on this. Thank you guys for reaching the end of the video and listening to me yap. Feel free to leave comments down below as to your thoughts on the Kevin situation. Thank you all to my gremlins and fancy gremlins for helping to keep the lights on. I appreciate y'all so much, and if you'd like to become a member too, feel free to hit that join button. Until next time, keep it vibin'. Bye!